Ubuntu does not mean that people should not enrich themselves.
Ubuntu, speaking truth to power. In the heart of South Africa beats a word that transcends language. Ubuntu. I am because we are. It is more than a philosophy. It is our moral compass. The spirit that carried us from the dark days of apartheid into democracy. And today, the same spirit that compels us to speak truth to power. Ours is a nation forged in struggle, one that knows the sting of injustice and the price of freedom. From the townships of Soweto to the cells of Robben Island, South Africans learned that silence in the face of oppression is complicity. So when the bombs began to fall on Gaza, when the innocent were buried beneath the rubble, South Africans did what we've always done. We stood on the side of justice. In 2024, our government, led by the spirit of Ubuntu, took a bold step. It stood before the world's highest court and accused Israel of genocide. It was more than a legal act. It was a moral declaration that no nation, however powerful, is above humanity.
The Palestinian issue is front and center of the world, and that is a very important achievement through this case brought by South Africa.
South Africa carries a sacred responsibility to remind the world that justice must never depend on geography, race, or religion.
The Palestinians are lost in this world without someone that they can depend on, like they have depended on South Africa. But when you return to a crowd like this and with warmth and a sense of Ubuntu.
We have known the pain of apartheid, and we refuse to watch another people suffer it again. And when the government fought in the courtroom, ordinary South Africans took to the seas. There were doctors, teachers, activists, people of conscience joining the Freedom Flotilla, determined to break the blockade of Gaza and deliver aid, knowing full well the risks they faced. Their journey was not about food and medicine. It was about dignity. It was about reminding the world that our humanity is bound together. From Cape Town to Johannesburg, from Durban to Polokwane, the call for justice echoes across generations. South Africans, black, white, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, united by a simple truth. Freedom is indivisible. Ubuntu teaches us that humanity is tied to the humanity of others, that when Gaza bleeds, our conscience must ache.
We anticipated two scenarios: that we will be successful in our mission and get to Gaza, or we will be intercepted by apartheid Israel.
Justice, real justice, knows no borders. Speaking truth to power is never easy, but history judges those who had the courage to speak and those who chose silence. Ubuntu demands that we choose courage. This is the legacy of South Africa, a nation that turned its pain into purpose, a people who remembered where they came from, and who stand unflinchingly for those who are still fighting to be free. Because Ubuntu is not just who we are, it is what we owe the world. Ubuntu, speaking truth to power.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host for tonight, award-winning broadcaster and author, Iman Rapeti.
I'm expecting, oh wow, we should have done a sound check. I was expecting a louder clap. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. See, I still remember how to say it. It's so amazing to be with all of you. Thank you for inviting me. It's such an honor for me to be standing in front of all of you. I just can't believe I met Auntie Maimuna Hendricks. She was in the room, as was Fatima Hendricks. Okay, if I tell you how many years ago, then you're going to know how old I am, and that's what I don't want. But I'm going to take the risk. 30 years ago. That's incredible. It's such a small world. And what is so remarkable to me is how amazing our community is. And thank you for coming out tonight and being with us. It is such a privilege and a pleasure to be here with you. I know not everybody watches the #1 breakfast show in the country. But in case you don't, Juanita, you know what I'm talking about. In case you don't, I work at Newsroom Africa, and I do the morning show, which happens to be the #1 breakfast show in the country. It's called AM Report. Please tune in. You can help our ratings on Monday, 405. 405, but don't tell my boss I mentioned anything. Thank you so much. Who said that? There's a gift bag with the Mercedes-Benz keys under your chair. Don't say I didn't reward you. Anyway, it is such a pleasure to be here. No one told me it was Eid. Is it Eid? Because everyone looks so beautiful and amazing. I mean, I saw this lady when she came in, head to toe, in this burgundy outfit. You look absolutely gorgeous. I felt like I could have done better, but I didn't do too badly. Thank you. So as I was saying, thank you so much for being with us tonight. You know, there's something that's so remarkable about us as South Africans, and in this room, there's a representation of so many diverse sectors of South African society. I don't know much about cricket, so if I'm wrong, please correct me, because I know that you guys love your cricket. But we made history the other day in that test match against India for the first time in how many years? 25 years, yes! Woo! Captain Babuma. But we also did amazing. I was at an incredible global event last week. It's called the G20, you might have heard of it. But South Africa did so well, despite what the other guy was saying. We did incredibly, incredibly well. And it shows me just how amazing we can rise to the occasion when we need to. Listen, I don't know if the potholes are going to stay covered. I don't know if the flowers are going to stay where they are. But the point is that when the international community descended here on Joburg, our humble little city, which happens to be the richest economy on the African continent, they were wowed. So I want us to give a great big, do you know how to do a slow clap? I know it's been a long time since you've been with the kids, but a slow clap, when you really appreciate something, a slow clap for South Africa, being able to acquit itself so well. Damn, we did an amazing job last week. Can I hear it? There was something really remarkable about being in that room and watching everything go off so smoothly. Having a leaders' declaration on day 1 of the Leaders' Summit was unprecedented. It was such an African declaration that we had. South Africa managed to stamp its authority there. And our citizens make their mark everywhere they go. And that is the point for tonight as we gather and we honor those who were part of the Global Summit Flotilla. Every year, this is the 11th year of these awards, every year we honor remarkable South Africans. And for so many reasons, we can be proud. And we'll share those names, we'll share those stories throughout the course of the evening. But again, I just want to affirm that I am really, really proud and honored to be a South African, aren't you? Because I think the most important thing is that when we're required to show up, we certainly know how to show up. So that's my thing. I'm hoping to keep you excited. I'm hoping to keep you energized. How am I doing so far? Not bad. Thank you. Throughout the course of the evening, we have a very brisk program to get through. It's not all about the wonderful food and the wonderful fellowship. It is about remarkable South Africans that we are honoring tonight. That's what this evening is all about. So I want to start with the anthem. Now listen, I've been in many events. Whenever the anthem comes on, and we let the music play, I really want us, tonight of all nights, as we stand up, some of you may not know all the words, and that's okay, you'll get them eventually. But it has been 30 years. But you'll get them eventually. Let's stand up as we hear the national anthem. If you know the words, sing along with it. I would love to be surprised. Director, roll. There was a bit of a remix in the middle there, which I wasn't prepared for, but we did really, really well. Our ability to rise when the need to embodies the spirit of tonight. It's a moment for us all to exhale and to honor those who make us extremely, extremely proud of our country and who allow us to believe that despite the darkness of corruption, I've been stuck at Madlanga the last couple of weeks. I am Madlanga'd out, but it's been a really important moment of accountability for the country. Despite the darkness of corruption, the lies told about our country in the Oval Office, the pain of our neighbors and our extended human family in Sudan and Gaza, the threats of a unipolar world, we heard all about it last week, the murder of love and kindness in all of our homes, not in all of our homes, but in our homes across the country. And this is where children are being buried, having been slain at the hands of their own parents. We know that each antithetical human act only makes our resolve to do good and to be good even stronger. And so that is the responsibility that all of us bear tonight. It wasn't enough that the world witnessed how apartheid tried to rip away the heart and soul of the majority of South Africa's citizens. Evildoers have sought to replicate and improve on what was already an evil scheme, leading Madiba to affirm that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians. We watch, and as we watch the suffering of our own African family in places like Sudan, we are reminded of what the Prophet, peace be upon him, had to say. Whomever among you sees an evil action, let him change it with his hand. If he cannot, then change it with his tongue. And if he cannot, you can finish this for me, change it with his heart, symbolically, even though he said that that was the weakest of faiths, because we do need to be front and center. We need to be speaking, we need to be doing. The CBE, our host tonight, is an activist business collective that does not only feel and speak, but it also does. It had its roots in South Africa's fight for liberation from apartheid, and has continued to call and act for economic freedom as a tool to truly free the oppressed in our beautiful land. So for more on this year's theme and to officially welcome you, I'm going to read this in my announcing voice. So for more on this year's theme and to officially welcome you, please help me bring to the stage Yusuf Musaji, the Vice President and the Executive Director of the Congress of Business and Economics.
Thank you, Iman. You know, I'd rather be speaking 400 times to one person than once to 400 people. But ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the Congress of Business and Economics 11th Annual Recognition Awards Gala dinner. Many people often ask why we have chosen the name to name these awards the CBE Ahmed Kathrada Excellence in Leadership Awards. The answer takes us back to our inaugural event when our keynote speaker was none other than Ahmed Kathrada himself, affectionately known as Uncle Kathy. At that time, the event was called a tribute to our heroes. In a message penned by Uncle Kathy for our 2016 brochure, he reminded us that organizations such as the CBE must always aspire to speak truth to power. He urged us to confront the shortcomings of our democracy with honesty and courage, and to consistently support those who embody that principle. In that same message, Uncle Kathy made special mention of Judge Johan Krichler, who was the keynote speaker at our 2016 edition. Uncle Kathy wrote, and I quote, "Let me also thank Judge Krichler, the main speaker at the banquet, for his continued work in defense of our Constitution. Let us remind ourselves that he and many of his age should not be doing the work they are doing now. They should be resting and enjoying the peace of democracy. But alas, when national duty calls, old soldiers must do all they can to speak truth to power." The words were written 9 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, and tonight I have the privilege of once again welcoming Judge Krichler and Mrs. Krichler to our 2025 awards event. As Mrs. Krichler wrote to me recently, and she said, "It's always a red letter event for us. We are deeply grateful for your unwavering support." Thank you. The CBE enjoyed a special and meaningful relationship with Uncle Kathy. He always introduced us as enlightened business people, and he encouraged our commitment to principled, ethical, and courageous leadership. In recognition of his legacy, his integrity, his humility, and his lifelong dedication to justice, we honor Uncle Kathy, his legacy, and that's why we proudly name these awards the CBE Ahmed Kathrada Leadership in Excellence in Leadership Award. And this obviously is with the approval of the foundation. Furthermore, for the past 5 years, our gala dinner has carried the theme Truth to Power, speaking truth to power. It reflects the very heart of Uncle Kathy's philosophy and the mission he entrusted to institutions like ours. Tonight's awardees embody that ideal. They stand as examples of courage, conscience, and leadership in a time when such qualities are urgently needed. We honor them not only for what they have achieved, but for the principles they uphold, principles that echo the very spirit of Ahmed Kathrada. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us as we celebrate leadership that does not waver, values that do not bend, and voices that continue to speak truth to power. Welcome, and may you enjoy the evening with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Yusuf. And again, I do want to appreciate the presence of Justice Krikla. I won't tell you how old he is, but I just want to be like you when I'm your age. What an incredible contribution you continue to make to society. And I've interviewed, yes, let's get it going then. I think there was a round of applause brewing. You've made an incredible contribution to society. I know we've always rung you up. Can we have an interview about this, that, or the other? And more than likely, the answer is going to be yes. So thank you again to you and to your family for the contributions that you have made. And for those of you who don't know, Justice Krikla was on our very first constitutional court bench, basically shaping the law. It was an interim constitution. At one point, it had to grow up into a big baby, which it is now. It's still got a lot of growing to do, but you were there for all of that. So that's a remarkable view of history we have through your presence in the room. We also want to welcome our other honored guest, who is the former US ambassador, and this is Ambassador Ibrahim Rasool. I wish the cameras were here. Are they, Juanita? Because, you know, there's some questions we can ask Ibrahim Rasool after last week. Somebody laughed out loud. I'm not even joking. Zakiswa. All right, but we are definitely privileged to have such incredible people in our room. And to all of our honored guests, welcome to you, and all protocol is observed. I know there's no government people, but I mean, I've just gotten so used to saying that, so all protocol is observed. There was a really beautiful saying that I was thinking about when I was planning to be up here, and it's by a human rights and civil rights activist, James Baldwin. Anyone who is a lover of freedom and civil rights knows him well. And he said, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. And some of us do it at an incredibly high price to ourselves, to themselves and their families. And I'm thinking about the way these awards have honored whistleblowers in the past, how they have honored the legal team at the ICJ, and how they continue to honor people who speak truth to power. And I can only aspire, as a journalist myself, to be included in that group. So this is an incredibly special evening. I want to welcome another member of the CBE executive to come up and address you and to officially welcome you. Ashfaq Dawood is the president. Where are you, Mr. President? There you are. It's nice to see you again. We had dinner after Sona last year. Yes, good to see you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very special welcome to Ambassador Ibrahim Rasool, Justice Krikla. You know, I must say to us at the CBE, Ambassador Rasool is still our ambassador. We will recognize him as such, and he's arguably one of the best ambassadors, in my opinion, this country has seen. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, I don't have too much of a speech. It's not about us speaking, but about a great honor tonight and a concept around that honor. But also, I must confidentially tell you that Mr. Yusuf Musaji used my speech, but well spoken. You know, there's always a bit of confusion around the concept of the Congress of Business and Economics and Politics. And many people understand the divide. Not too many people understand the synergy. You know, the world and economic power has determined success or failure, has determined the success of a standpoint or the failure of a standpoint. 1973, King Faisal made an announcement about stopping the supply of oil, and the war in Palestine stopped. Today, we have an entire world, people that have all stood up and spoken truth to power. And this war continued, the genocide continued, and the bludgeoning of women and children continued. Now we ask ourselves why. The problem is, unfortunately, the dilution of economic power. Now, that dilution of power comes from an involuntary dilution where, countries, governments are held to ransom by certain indirect taxes like fuel. We've also had a situation where, it's crazy. Many commodities are traded in foreign currencies. We literally produce maize in South Africa. It's almost like a ship has to set sail to sea, get invoiced in US dollars and sent back to South Africa. The other one, which I think we're all guilty of, and I stand as an example to, is the attachment to value of commodities and products where we tax, but we pay premiums for what serves a very basic need: clothing, bags. And understand that in that there's a massive transference of wealth and power. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the important thing is not about, glamorizing. And many people must understand the CBE recognizes excellent achievements of people. Tonight, we recognize great people that, Faisal in particular is a personal friend of mine. And when he left, he basically called me and spoke as if he was not returning. That is the brief that they were given, that anything could happen at any time. And it was virtually a goodbye to your family, to your children, to your business, to all that you accumulated. And people have done exceptional gestures like these. But the reality is, what we as the CBE want to propagate is the concept of truth to power. Because we all understand it in its glamorous form. We all understand it when it comes to standing up against governments or against hierarchies that are oppressive. But truth to power applies in our everyday life. How many of us would stand up to a boss to defend a person without a voice? How many of us will stand up against a spouse to defend a maid that may not have done something wrong? Now, if we conceptualize what truth to power actually means, it applies in our daily life. And sometimes we look at it as an unattainable sort of concept and something that requires greatness and requires something for great people to achieve. But yet, we can speak truth to power in the workplace, in our homes, in our religious institutions, and trust me, the greatest oppression happens in those spheres. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, this is not about us. It's not about us speaking. It's about acknowledgement of a concept, understanding of that concept, and embracement of that concept. But what I would like to do before I go, there's a whole series of people that, unfortunately, we have one or two people that normally come up on stage that speak. But there's a whole series of people that work in the background to allow organizations like the CBE, and there are many others, to do the good work they're doing. Unfortunately, I'm not able to divulge, but the CBE right now is attending to a very serious matter with government that arguably is going to be a game-changing initiative in terms of the legislation of this country. A matter that has been inherited from the apartheid era, that is adopted today, that is highly oppressive to certain business organizations. The CBE will be taking up this fight. Unfortunately, we can't divulge too much, as I've said, but understand that there are numerous people that work in the background to make this possible. Unfortunately, we can't have, 10 speeches. Tonight is about you, your entertainment, about absorbing a certain kind of philosophy and spirituality in our lives. But I'd like to call up every member of the Standing Committee and Board of the CBE so that you, our honored guests, and they are very, very important. Each person in this room is important, and your acknowledgement will be the greatest mark of respect for me. Please, can I have all the CBE members and standing committee to please come up on stage? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do a general introduction and then we'll give one round of applause. Mr. Yusuf Musaji, as you've all heard, you know, that very eloquently delivered my speech, but he is the backbone and really, truly the backbone of the CBE. Ladies and gentlemen, I say without any element of doubt or any reservation that today was not possible without this man. Mr. Rashid Chobdat, Akhtar Token, Shaista Token, Hassan Mohammed Dullah, Ahmed Sidat, Lucy Sagaban, Anis Lunat, Mr. Fakir Hassan. So I think, Iman, if you have competition today, it would be from this man, in terms of popularity. And then Mr. Rashid Hafaji, right? Mr. Rashid Hafaji. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the heartbeat of the organization. They've carried this organization, they've built this organization, but they need support. We invite youth, we invite a succession plan. We ask you to support us or to send your children to become part of this great organization that will make a difference in this country. I thank you all, and I ask you to please give a final round of applause to these great people.
Thank you so much, Ashfaq, for that. And I think we are off to a really great beginning of this event. Now, I know that you must be a little bit hungry. No, you're not a little bit hungry. I can see the platters being passed around. So I'm glad that you're already enjoying. We will begin to serve our starters really quickly. But Ashfaq, I wanted to just pick up on one or two things you said. Sitting at that G20 last week was so important in realizing just our power as Africans. When we think about armed conflicts on the continent, if you think about places like the DRC, for example, and their rich mineral reserves, I mean, they've got a whole range of rare earth minerals that are being used in catalytic converters or being used in cell phones. There's a reason why we are stuck in dysfunction, because there are predatory forces that would love us to be stuck in dysfunction so that they can extract the minerals from our earth. And they can make money off of it, and they can keep us subjugated. The idea of multilateralism as well. And I have a whole lexicon of words from last week. So ask me anything about the critical minerals framework. Ask me anything about multilateralism. I'll be able to tell you. Ask me about a unipolar world. I'll be able to tell you. But the reason these themes are important is we shouldn't see what's happening to us as a country or other countries who are receiving similar treatment from superpowers as accidental or pedestrian. There is a grand agenda, and we have to be incredibly vigilant at this point, more, I think, than we ever have had to be in history. And that's why small acts, even if we're concentrating on the human rights abuses in a place that's far, far away from us, that has a massive, massive impact in signaling to other downtrodden and oppressed communities that there are people who will rally to their charge and who will support them and be a voice where there isn't any. So I think it's really important to remember that big context. I think I've now allowed you to work up a hunger. Justice Krichler, have you had your starters yet? It's unacceptable. Let's get starters here first, people. That's what we're going to do now, and then we'll come back straight after. Enjoy.
In the halls of commerce, where leaders convene, truth to power, a vision so keen, CBE stands tall with integrity and grace, honoring those who make a difference in this place. Truth to power, we rise and we stand, building a future hand in hand, in the heart of business where dreams take flight. CBE leads the way, shining so bright. winners inspire with courage and might. Their stories of triumph, a beacon of light.
Much more needs to be done on Palestine. Very, very much more. I know the ANC has passed resolutions at conferences and so forth.
Ahmed Kathrada, to heroes unsung. Their legacy lives on, their praises are sung. Truth to power, we rise and we stand. Building a future, hand in hand. In the heart of business, where dreams take flight, CBE leads the way, shining so bright. For thriving democracy, truth is the key. In business and economics, we set it free. With every award, we pave the way for a world where truth and justice will stay. Truth to power, we rise and we stand. Building the future, hand in hand. In the heart.
I would like to begin by acknowledging the leadership of the Congress of Business and Economics.
Of business, where dreams take flight, CBE leads the way, shining so bright. So here's to the leaders, the brave and bold. In the Congress of Business, their stories are told. With truth as our guide, we'll always succeed. In the spirit of CBE, we'll take the lead.
Ubuntu, speaking truth to power. In the heart of South Africa beats a word that transcends language. Ubuntu. I am because we are. It is more than a philosophy. It is our moral compass. The spirit that carried us from the dark days of apartheid into democracy. And today, the same spirit that compels us to speak truth to power. Ours is a nation forged in struggle, one that knows the sting of injustice and the price of freedom. From the townships of Soweto to the cells of Robben Island, South Africans learned that silence in the face of oppression is complicity. So when the bombs began to fall on Gaza, when the innocent were buried beneath the rubble, South Africans did what we've always done. We stood on the side of justice. In 2024, our government, led by the spirit of Ubuntu, took a bold step. It stood before the world's highest court and accused Israel of genocide. It was more than a legal act. It was a moral declaration that no nation, however powerful, is above humanity.
The Palestinian issue is front and center of the world, and that is a very important achievement through this case brought by South Africa.
South Africa carries a sacred responsibility to remind the world that justice must never depend on geography, race, or religion.
The Palestinians are lost in this world without someone that they can depend on, like they have depended on South Africa. But when you return to a crowd like this and with warmth and the sense of Ubuntu.
We have known the pain of apartheid, and we refuse to watch another people suffer it again. And when the government fought in the courtroom, ordinary South Africans took to the seas. There were doctors, teachers, activists, people of conscience joining the Freedom Flotilla, determined to break the blockade of Gaza and deliver aid, knowing full well the risks they faced. Their journey was not about food and medicine. It was about dignity. It was about reminding the world that our humanity is bound together. From Cape Town to Johannesburg, From Durban to Polokwane, the call for justice echoes across generations. South Africans, black, white, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, united by a simple truth: freedom is indivisible. Ubuntu teaches us that humanity is tied to the humanity of others, that when Gaza bleeds, our conscience must ache.
We anticipated two scenarios: that we will be successful in our mission and get to Gaza, or we will be intercepted by apartheid Israel.
Justice, real justice, knows no borders. Speaking truth to power is never easy, but history judges those who had the courage to speak and those who chose silence. Ubuntu demands that we choose courage. This is the legacy of South Africa, a nation that turned its pain into purpose, a people who remembered where they came from, and who stand unflinchingly for those who are still fighting to be free. Because Ubuntu is not just who we are, it is what we owe the world. Ubuntu, speaking truth to power.
All right, so I'm glad you enjoyed. I saw people walking around, probably connecting with people you haven't seen for a while, and I'm so glad that it's that kind of moment and event where we can reconnect with old friends. But I want us to get straight into the awards themselves now. I'm super excited for this main event. I mentioned at the very beginning that these awards in the past have honored whistleblowers. They've also honored the legal team that was arguing South Africa's case for Palestine at the ICJ. And tonight we give those who were members of the Global Summit Flotilla their flowers. It was the largest citizen-led humanitarian flotilla mission to Gaza ever. And there were just amazing people from across the world there. We had activists, humanitarians, we had doctors, we had artists, we had clergy members, we had lawyers, everyone from entirely different backgrounds from around the world. We had Christians, we had Muslims, we had Jews, we had agnostics, we had atheists, all united in looking and in locking the world's gaze on the atrocities that were unfolding in the occupied territories. Of course, as we all saw on television, that flotilla was intercepted by Israeli forces. But as Zukiswa Wana and Jared Sachs, two of our recipients tonight, reflected on Al Jazeera, a big part of the mission was to sustain hope. And freedom-loving global citizens hoped and prayed along with them. I'm sure everyone in this room was part of that global effort. Let's watch this.
The CBE is honored to present the Ahmed Kathrada Excellence in Leadership Award to Ibrahim Rasool, a distinguished South African leader whose life has been defined by courage, principle, and service. From his early days at Livingstone High and the University of Cape Town, Rasool stood at the forefront of anti-apartheid struggle, leading student protests, uniting faith communities, and enduring imprisonment, house arrest, and the loss of livelihood in the pursuit of freedom and justice.
We have a family that has been here for many, many generations. It is quite amazing that Jan van Riebeeck arrived in 1652 and that in 1657 this person in whose shrine we are, 1657, Sheikh Mahmoud arrived. It is reputed in our family that we are related and descendants of this family. And so I've always walked with those two legs, one firmly in the politics of South Africa, the other one within the kind of evolution of Muslim thought in South Africa. And by 1983, I was part of the formation of the United Democratic Front. I was elected to its first executive in the Western Cape. And thereafter, with the impending tricameral parliament elections, we also had a job to tell Muslims not to vote, and out of that struggle was born the Call of Islam. At Uhud, we chased the booty, had a setback. But when we were in the middle, strategic and focused, We beat a large army with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at Badr. My take is that the Palestinians have given the ANC and South Africa a gift again. It has made the ANC find its moral center.
As South Africa transitioned to democracy, he worked alongside Nelson Mandela, helping bridge religious and political divides to shape a new nation. He went to serve as a Premier of Western Cape and later as South Africa's ambassador to the United States during the Obama administration, earning respect on the world stage for his integrity and moral clarity. Today, though his World for All Foundation, his academic leadership, and his tenure as chairperson of the Development Bank of Southern Africa, Ibrahim Rasool continues to champion the values of justice, equality, and human dignity, values that reflect the enduring spirit of Ahmed Kathrada himself.
And Ibrahim Rasool is tonight's recipient of the CBE Ahmed Kathrada Leadership Excellence Award. We'd love to welcome him on stage, if you won't mind standing and giving him a warm welcome. When they bring the pyrotechnics out, then you know it's big. Ibrahim, lovely to see you again.
Thank you very much, Iman, for that extraordinary surprise, because I was expecting the Flotilla to come up and then saw this, but thank you very much for letting my life flash in front of me in the way that you have on the screen. I want to really say that this extraordinary organization, this Congress of Business and Economics, was the product of a prescient organization in the late 80s, the Transvaal Indian Congress. How did they understand in the late 80s, when we did not dare of freedom, when we did not dare think of entrepreneurship, when we were in the midst of an emergency, when 20,000 people were in detention and prisoners were still in prison, they had a vision that we will be free. That's faith. They had a vision that we should be preparing for the entrepreneurship of the future. That's vision. And so, to be honored by this organization is an enormous thing, because it takes you right back to the past, so that no one can think that they are, even if they get a prestigious award, that they are great. There were people who were great in the midst of enormous danger and death and oppression. The second part of this honor is that it is in the name of Ahmed Kathrada. I first met Uncle Kathy, Ahmed Kathrada, in 1987 in Pollsmoor prison. This was something that I looked forward to, staying in prison, because every second week, Maulana Hashim Qasim, the chaplain of Pollsmoor prison, brought Uncle Kathy and myself together, and we had the space to recite the Quran, to read the Quran, and just generally talk about the values of what it means to be Muslim and what it means to be in prison. That was a highlight of a year or 13 months in detention for me. Right up till the moment when I attended his funeral, the janaza, and his funeral became the fight back against those who captured the ANC and captured our country and its resources. Even in his death, he fought for us, and he gave us the courage to go forward. And so this is an enormous honor. But I must say that honors don't come in individuals. I have had a partner in life who would have married me in 1987 already had I not been in detention. But she waited until I was released, And so we should have been married for 38 years. We'll be married for 37 years in a few days' time. And it's one thing to marry someone who shares your values and your vision and your passion for justice. That's a supportive wife. But to marry someone who's in the trenches with you, fighting every step of the way with you, ensuring that the equality you want between black and white is also an equality you have between men and women, that is the person who keeps you with your integrity, with your honor, and with a comprehensive sense of justice. The person who, when you receive your letter declaring you persona non grata, does not say, "What did you do wrong?" but then says, "It was bound to happen because you needed to say what needed to be said." That is, I think, the kind of situation. That's the prophetic example. That when our beloved Prophet ﷺ was in doubt about whether this mission that he was granted was too weighty for him, is he capable of it? Is he deserving of it? It was his wife, Sayyidina Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her, that said to him, "Allah does not make mistakes." And so, this theme of speaking truth to power, it's a theme that is rooted in the prophetic tradition, where it is said that the greatest jihad, the greatest struggle, is to speak the truth, is to speak a word, kalimatul adlin, a word of justice, in the presence of a tyrant. Our chattering classes love to speak the truth, but not always in the presence of a tyrant. They wait till the tyrant has lost his teeth. They wait till the tyrant is retired. They wait till others have defeated the tyrant, and then you hear all kinds of truth. I think what Comrade Kathy has bequeathed us is the courage to speak the truth in the presence of a tyrant. And today we have this overarching tyranny in the world. And more people need to be able to raise their voices. And Iman keeps on referencing, it's the last thing I will say, keeps on referencing the G20. The G20 was more than the declaration. The G20 was South Africa's ability to use what it is, be a moral superpower again. Not an economic one, not a military one, but to be a moral superpower again that took Israel to the International Court of Justice. And did not go with a heart full of rage or a heart full of solidarity, but went with a mind full of evidence and a team that was so competent that almost every judge, except the Ugandan, had to concede the veracity of the case. What South Africa achieved in the last weekend was to rally the rest of the G20, to bring them here despite the best efforts to keep them away, to make them sign a declaration despite the warnings of the supremacist, to tactically maneuver that it is signed right after the opening speech, so that he had no 2 days to phone up every leader and threaten them and bully them. That's the tactical acumen that we saw at work, whether it was intended or not, or whether it's just become instinctive that we maneuver like that. That's what we achieved this past weekend. Every red flag that he had raised, the problem he had with diversity, the problem he had with solidarity, the problem he had with equality, the problem he had with inclusion, every red flag was transgressed. And that's the achievement that I think this past weekend had brought about. And so, as a country, we have this task of speaking truth to power. But we have a task to speak it smartly, strategically, and tactically. Everyone can have a heart full of rage. Everyone can have a heart full of passion. But it is the scalpel-like truth that hurts the tyrant. That's the lesson that South Africa has taught the world. That's what we stand on, and that's what we are the custodians of. And we must have a double-edged sword. That same sword that speaks truth to power must cut inside, and it must cut outwards. When we do both of that, we then stand on our integrity. So I'm very honored to receive this in the name of all of those that I've mentioned. I'm not one of the whistleblowers. I'm not one of the judges in the, or the team in the ICJ. I'm not the stalwarts who were recognized in the first generations and so forth. I must say that when there is unhappiness in the world, it is easy to be a hero. You must just muster the courage to be able to go forward. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Ibrahim. And while Justice Krikler and Shyster come up to present you with your award, I know it's the CBE Ahmed Kathrada Leadership Awards, but I think the Sabr Award goes to Mrs. Rasool. And for those who don't speak Arabic, the Eshk and Sabr Award, I should say, which is the Love and Patience Award, goes to Mr. Rasool's wife. Yeah, I did. I must call up. Okay, I've had some executive authority endowed upon me. Mrs. Rasool, we would love you to come up. Since you were a part of this journey to here, and this recognition is 55% yours. So please come up. I know you're not used to being in front of the camera or the microphone, but I think tonight's appropriate. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening. This is a celebration, I think, for all of us. I think that Ibrahim is just a representation of what we do when we, as the saying goes, when we speak truth to power. I think it's important that every one of us actually define our role in life, and then we keep on that journey from the moment we make up our mind what we want to do in life. We have to pursue it with all our might, with all our courage, and with all our motivation. And so when Ibrahim spoke about the fact that he was declared persona non grata, again, often people think that these kind of challenges are big challenges, but actually South Africa knows that we've been through far worse than that. Yeah, for us that was in the anti-apartheid struggle. Something like that is, yeah, it's just something that a bully did. Yeah, and so I think, so I just want to thank the organizing committee for giving this award, and the award for everyone else that has been so courageous. Shukran. Assalam.
And while we continue to take the photos, there are other people we want to appreciate as well tonight. Krish Naidu, the past president of the CBE and current legal desk advisor. Very important having the right legal team on your side. Ibrahim Khalil Hassan, who's on the research desk. Shukran. On the research desk, Rafiq Baba, the legal desk advisor. Nad Pillay, who's a standing committee member, couldn't come onto stage because they've just had a recent operation, but we so appreciate you being here. Ismail Vadi and Salim Aziz on the advisory committee, and they are also very fundamental to the work that's been done here. So I'd love to give them a round of applause, please. So sweet, 37. Who is married more than 30 years in the room? Now's the time to show off. I love you guys. I'm coming for tips there. Who else? Wow, amazing. And they still look so happy. There's hope for us yet. Where are all the single ladies? I know there's some sitting at that table there at the back. I won't name you, don't worry. We don't even want to know we're single. But it's really beautiful to see love, and especially the kind of love that lasts, and you don't hate each other. So that's just awesome. So thank you very much and congratulations. All right, we're going to move quite quickly through this next piece. I'm going to now make way for, I don't want to say the main event because I think every aspect of tonight has been absolutely incredible and important. But tonight we recognize each member of South Africa's Global Summit Flotilla delegation. Woo! I know some of us are conservative, but a woo is halal. Let's just do that again. Woo! All right, so I want to recognize them. 2 of them are not with us, and the CBE will deliver their awards to them. But we're going to play a short tribute video, and as your name is called out, I would love for you to just come up on stage. It will say your name, it will tell us a little bit about you, for those of us who don't know all of you, and then you can give a round of applause. They'll come up on stage and receive their awards. Everyone who is helping with the awards will be able to, and they know their names, so they will be on stage joining us as well, and we'll move to this period quite quickly. Once your name has been announced, and if you want to say a little something to our audience, please feel free to do so, and we won't do like on the Academy Awards where they play the music to get you off the stage. Please do share from your heart to our heart. So I would love to just tee up that next portion of our program.
The CBE is honored to present the Ahmed Kathrada Excellence in Leadership Award to Ahmed Hatfield, a compassionate humanitarian and fearless advocate for human rights. Born in France to Moroccan roots and now based in Durban, Elham has dedicated her life to defending dignity and freedom wherever it is under threat. As a committed member of the global movement for Gaza, she has stood shoulder to shoulder with the Palestinian people from South Africa to France, Tunis, Morocco, Brussels and Cairo, bringing direct aid and solidarity to displaced families in their darkest hours. At home in Durban North, Elham leads a community disaster relief initiative that offers hope and practical support to families devastated by floods, fires, and personal loss. A proud mother and stepmother, she grounds her activism in compassion, resilience, and the belief that justice, safety, and humanity must never be negotiable. Tonight, we honor Elham Hatfield, a beacon of empathy and leadership whose courage reflects the enduring spirit of Ahmed Kathrada.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello everyone. My name is Ahmed Hatfield. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart to CBE Yusuf. Shukran bzaf. In Arabic means shukran means thank you énormément. The only thing I can say is that we were, I don't know if it's cold or whatever, when we see injustice, we can't just stay dead, not doing anything. We can just think about what's happening over there. And I'm talking about Palestine, Sudan, Congo, all of the oppressed countries. They need a bit of a help. And whatever we can do is to wake up and maybe wake up the people that don't understand what is happening, the one that has been brainwashed, maybe just to give them another side of the story, then they can understand, they can just try to educate themselves. So it's what we're doing every day. And if we can do even more, giving a hand, try to go together, Gaza many times, well, we do it. We support it by family and our children, and we do it for them, because if it happens together, it will come to home and very fast. So I thank you, everyone, all my colleagues that was on the flotilla and that made it back. Well done. But most importantly, the Palestinians are our mentors. They are the ones suffering. Subhanallah, it's like Allah decided to sacrifice them to open the entire world on each and every categories. Can be anything and everything. And I thank them for everything. We love them very much, and if we can help, no matter what, we will do it. So, assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Ilham. And Ilham, no, you stay. We're going to give you, don't you want your award? You got to put it somewhere. It's a moment, and I understand because, I mean, it's hard when you're doing something that you understand to be a moral duty, to be rewarded for it seems a little bit out of place, but this is more about the acknowledgement and the validation for something that you did that represents something that so many of us would have wanted to have done. So receive it in that spirit. And Ilham means inspiration. I believe that you have inspired so many.
The CBE is honored to present the Ahmed Kathrada Excellence in Leadership Award to Dr. Fatima Hendricks, a courageous South African occupational therapist, scholar, and human rights activist whose life is a testament to resilience and purpose. In 2025, Dr. Hendricks joined the global Sumud Flotilla to Gaza, where she was captured by Israeli forces and stood firm in her convictions until her release, embodying fearless moral resistance in the face of oppression. With a doctorate in occupational therapy and more than 25 years of global experience, she has devoted her career to bridging health, education, and Islamic spirituality, using her expertise to heal both body and spirit. A survivor of the Guillain-Barré syndrome and breast cancer, Dr. Hendricks transforms personal struggle into collective strength, inspiring others through her teaching, scholarship, and humanitarian work. Tonight we honor Dr. Fatima Hendricks, a woman of profound courage and compassion, whose leadership shines brightly as the values of Ahmed Kathrada himself.
بسم الله ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Greetings, everyone. These are the profound words that were said by Prophet Moses as he was about to confront the greatest of tyrants in Pharaoh. It was when his heart was constricted and he was afraid and he needed courage, and he recited these Arabic words from the Quran, from the prophetic book. And these are the words that the Palestinians recite together with Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil, that God alone is sufficient. And so, in the humility of the Palestinians, in recognition of all that Palestinians have given us, I dedicate this award to the families of Palestine. It is the families that have been torn apart, the mothers and fathers that are no longer, the mothers and fathers that have buried their babies, the mothers and fathers who are in different parts of Gaza, of occupied West Bank. It is where all of these families whose entire lines have been wiped out, who are no more. Families who don't even know where the rest of their family members are. It is dedicated to all of the amputees, all of the people that are experiencing intergenerational mental health trauma. It is by design that the Zionist occupation forces want to destroy the family, because the family is the bedrock of society. And so this award today, in the spirit of Ahmed Kathrada, who I was so fortunate to have met as a young person when he came to As-Salam Educational Institute in Bremer very shortly after his release, and he came to a program of the Muslim Youth Movement, and he had said that we will not rest until every belly is full, every child has a bed to sleep in, every child has a home to live in, every child has a school to go to, and there's a teacher in every single classroom. So from my family to your family, we stand in loving solidarity with the Palestinian people. I pay tribute to all of the Palestinian solidarity organizations, to CBE, to my beloved husband, Tayo Suleiman, my son, Lukman Oluwefemi Suleiman, my daughter, Iman Yajide Oluwatosin Suleiman, and my honorable parents, Fuad and Maimuna Hendricks, and all of the wonderful team that we have. Thank you so much to all of the Flotilla members. May God forgive us. May God forgive us. We tried, we did not get there. And this is an award that is for the Palestinian people, but recognizing that it is not because of what we did. This is a fard kifaya. It is a communal obligation upon our community. So thank you so much for this grace and this honor. I appreciate it very much. Amandla! Amandla! Amandla!
This is extra special for me because when I first became Muslim, as I mentioned, years and years ago, Fatima and her family were in my atmosphere. We were all young students together. And one of the first and most profound things I think I learned as a young Muslim revert at the time was the concept of your niyat, your intention in doing things. And this is, I've presided over a number of award ceremonies in my career. This is unlike any other because it is different. This is not about your works, but this is about valuing a piece and a corner of our society that for many, many generations has gone invalidated and silenced. And so it is different in that sense. And I really want us to take that tone and that note. It's not about a trophy that you're going to put in your cabinet. This is a piece of history, a moment in time that hopefully will reflect on an anniversary in a different way, where the freedom of the Palestinians has been realized.
The CBE is honored to present the Ahmed Kathrada Excellence in Leadership Award to Faisal Behra, a humanitarian whose quiet strength and unwavering conviction have guided him to stand firmly on the right side of history. Born and raised in Benoni, Faisal has faced many personal challenges, yet he has always believed that his struggles pale in comparison around the suffering and oppressed around the world. In 2015, he joined the humanitarian mission with BMCO to the Jordan-Syrian border, delivering food, blankets and wheelchairs to displaced families caught in the devastation of war. When the call came to once again serve humanity through the global Sumud Flotilla to Gaza, Faisal did not hesitate. Though his vessel was sabotaged and forced to turn back, his spirit never wavered. For he knows that the mission of solidarity and justice does not end at the sea. Tonight we honor Faisal Behra, a man of faith, humility and purpose, whose courage reflects the enduring legacy of Ahmed Kathrada.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Honored guest, esteemed organizers, brothers and sisters, I stand before you humbled by this recognition from the CBE and the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation to receive an award in the name of Ahmed Kathrada, a man whose life was dedicated to principle, justice, and unwavering moral courage, is both an honor and a responsibility. My journey to the global Sumud Flotilla this September was not an act of heroism, it was an act of conscience. As a Muslim, as an ummati, as a human being, I've always believed that our peace, our struggle, and our dignity are tied to our awareness, to our consciousness of what is right and what is wrong in the world. People ask me, why join the flotilla? Why risk so much? My answer was simple: to be on the right side of history, to stand even in a small way against the daily injustices faced by the Palestinian people, to add my voice to the global chorus that refuses to be silent in the face of oppression. Born and raised in Benoni, I've lived 54 years watching the world change, sometimes for the better and often for the worse. As a business owner, I've opened and closed many ventures, and I know the battles we fight every day and the challenge of finding people who share the same work ethic and spirit. But these struggles pale in comparison to the hardships faced by those living under occupation, whose entire existence is a daily test of faith and endurance. The Sumud Flotilla taught me something profound, that courage isn't loud. It's quiet, it's persistent, it's standing your ground peacefully. Sumud means steadfastness, and that steadfastness lives in every Palestinian mother, every child, every elder. We went not to save them, but to stand with them. Today's recognition is not mine alone. It belongs to everyone who supported, prayed, encouraged, and believed in this mission. It belongs to the organizations and volunteers who continue to work tirelessly for justice and human dignity across the world. I accept this award with gratitude and with a renewed commitment that whatever platform I have, whatever years Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants me, I will continue to contribute to causes of justice, humanity, and truth. May we all strive to be people of courage, people of service, and people who stand, like Ahmed Kathrada, on the side of what is right. Shukran, and may Allah reward you all.
The CBE is honored to present the Ahmed Kathrada Excellence in Leadership Award to Ishrad Ahmed Chotia, a passionate activist whose courage and compassion transcends borders. Haunted by the images of starving children and families under the siege in Gaza, Ishrad made a brave decision to join the global Sumud Flotilla, determined to help break the blockade and open a humanitarian corridor for the people of Palestine. "When you see the children suffering," he said, "you can no longer stand by." Rooted in South Africa's own struggle against apartheid, Ishrad drew powerful parallels between our nation's fight for freedom and the Palestinians' enduring resistance. His journey is one of conscience, a reminder that true leadership is measured not only by power, but by the willingness to stand for justice, even when the cost is great. Tonight we honor Ishrad Ahmed Chotia, a voice of moral clarity and a symbol of humanity's shared struggle for dignity and liberation.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much, Jazakallah. Standing here tonight amongst South Africans, people whose history, courage, and resilience helped end one of the most painful chapters in the world story. It is profoundly humbling and it's an honor. Our country taught the world what it means to confront injustice with dignity, with discipline, and with unwavering humanity. And it is through this legacy that I accept this honor of receiving this recognition. Being part of the Samud Flotilla was one of the most significant experiences of my life. Even though I did not make it all the way to Palestine, the journey itself reminded me of lessons I first learned here at home. That solidarity does not begin at the destination. It begins the moment we choose to stand with people whose freedom and safety are at risk. In Tunisia, we met individuals from across different continents, Christians, Muslims, Jews, people of no faith, all united by a belief that every human being deserves dignity. The same determination our own activists here at home carried throughout many decades through the struggle, often without recognition, often against overwhelming odds. South Africans know better than most that injustice anywhere echoes everywhere. We know that lifting our voices for others does not diminish our own story. It strengthens it. And although I didn't reach Palestine, I did not reach Gaza, the purpose of the journey stayed with me, to affirm human rights, to protect civilians, and to hold fast to the idea that courage is a universal language. Jazakallah.
The CBE is honored to present the Ahmed Kathrada Excellence in Leadership Award to Jared Sachs, a courageous activist, writer, and scholar whose work bridges the struggles for justice at home and abroad. Based in Cape Town, Jared holds a PhD from Columbia University and serves as a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Johannesburg. For years, he has stood alongside South Africa's most marginalized communities, fighting for land, housing, and dignity, and amplifying their voices through the acclaimed anthology, No Land, No House, No Vote. Compiled with the symphony way of pavement dwellers, today his commitment to justice extends to the global stage, where he plays a leading role in South African Jews for Free Palestine, challenging oppression and speaking truth with courage and conviction. Tonight we honor Jared Sachs, a principled voice for equality and a tireless advocate for the shared humanity that unites all struggles for freedom.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me here today, and thanks to everyone who's part of CBE. Thank you to my family who is part of who went on the Global Samud Flotilla and went with me to Tunisia. I met a wonderful family there, and I really appreciate connecting with them and becoming close to them. I felt very uncomfortable. Oh, sorry. I'm not as good a speaker as the other people who came up here, but I felt very uncomfortable accepting this award at first because, you know, what we're doing is we're doing this for Palestine. We're not doing this for awards. We're not doing this for recognition. And this was always about the freedom of the Palestinian people and also all our freedom as people on this earth. And so it's not about me, but about the struggle for freedom that we all should support and fight for. Tonight is also, you know, it's not about us, but it's about Palestine, but it's also about places like Western Sahara that is being forgotten, and the colonization of Western Sahara which is being supported now by most of the world. It's about the Congo, about Sudan, and also about what's going on right here in South Africa, where millions of people are being oppressed because some people have tons of money and the rest of the people have nothing. And so I think it's really important to acknowledge that all these struggles are interconnected, that we are all, that even though we are fighting for Palestine right now, we are also fighting for all these struggles because each of these struggles, if we are able to win one of these struggles, it makes it easier to win these other struggles as well. I want to say something about speaking truth to power. You know, it is important to speak truth to power, but that's not enough. I think we need to do more than speak truth to power. We need people in this room, but all over, to take action against power as well. Speaking truth is not enough because they can ignore us when we speak truth. They've been ignoring our truth for 2 years during this genocide in Gaza. So this is also a call to action. We all need to get down into the streets and join protests. We need to support various different campaigns right in our backyard. You don't need to go on a flotilla to actually make a difference. We can make a difference right here. There's important campaigns that everyone here can get involved in. There's the anti-Amazon campaign, where Amazon is on the boycott list and they're busy taking land from indigenous people in Cape Town. And the people fighting that campaign have no money to support. They need money to fight these Amazon in court. So we could support it in that way. We must support the Palestine Solidarity Campaign in Cape Town, which is being sued by Cape Union Mart. And they've lost their funding that they've been fundraising on BackaBuddy because BackaBuddy is withdrawn, closed their account. You know, we need to attend more protests. We need to pressure our government to do more. The ICJ case is not enough. We need to pressure them to arrest every single citizen who is going to fight for the IDF. They have no... It is illegal to do this, and yet we have taken no action against them. We also need to stop sending coal to Israel. We're sending the third largest amount of coal of any country in the world, South Africa. Why are we still sending them coal 2 years into a genocide? Someone also needs to set up the Hein Rajab Foundation in South Africa so that we can take these legal cases forward. There's so much work to do. I could go on. And all I want to say is that speaking truth to power is important, but it's not enough. So let's take action. And I hope to see you guys at the next protest. Thank you.
The CBE is honored to present the Ahmed Kathrada Excellence in Leadership Award to Nurain Saluji, a young leader whose spirit of activism is rooted in generations of resistance and faith. Hailing from a family steeped in the struggle against apartheid in South Africa and colonialism in India, Nurain learned from an early age that standing for justice is both a duty and an act of devotion. From distributing pamphlets to organizing protests, her journey has been one of purpose and courage. In 2021, she joined the Palestine Solidarity Alliance, where she now serves as vice chairperson of the PSA Youth League, inspiring young South Africans to rise for freedom and equality. Though illness prevented her from boarding the Global Summit Flotilla, she played a vital role as part of the ground team, coordinating, supporting, and ensuring the mission's success from afar. Tonight we honor Nurain Saluji, a beacon of youth leadership, compassion and conviction, carrying forward the legacy of those who believe that justice knows no borders.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening to everybody. Standing here today is not a celebration of my accomplishments, but a reminder of why I ever stepped into the work I do. Any recognition I receive belongs to far beyond me. It belongs to the children of Gaza, to the children of Palestine, to the children who have been robbed of safety, of schooling, of play, whose laughter has been interrupted by occupation, whose dreams have been forced to grow up too fast. This is for you. Their courage, their resilience, and their innocence in the face of unimaginable violence are the true sources of inspiration. If I am seen today, it is only because their stories demanded to be carried. Their voices are often silenced, are the reason I continue to speak. Their suffering ignored by too many is the reason I continue to show up. Any work I have done, any effort I have made has been to honor the light the Palestinians still hold despite every attempt to extinguish it. This award is not a symbol of achievement. It is a responsibility to continue advocating, to continue educating, to continue fighting for a world where children live in freedom, dignity, and peace. A world where their childhood is not a battlefield. I accept this today in your name, and I pray that the world never stops seeing you, never stops remembering you, and never stops fighting for you. May your actions be louder than our words, and may our humanity never tire. Free, free, free Palestine.
The CBE is honored to present the Ahmed Kathrada Excellence in Leadership Award to Riaz Mullah, a man whose life is guided by faith, compassion, and unyielding commitment to justice. Born and raised in Newcastle, KwaZulu-Natal, and the youngest of 5 siblings, Riaz was shaped by humanity, love, and respect, values that continue to define his character. Grounded in Islam, his faith is the compass that guides every decision, inspiring sincerity, gratitude, and service to others. Known for his generous heart and quiet strength, Riaz has dedicated himself to uplifting the less fortunate and standing in solidarity with the oppressed. His deep commitment to the Palestinian cause led him to join the global summit Flotilla, representing South Africa in an act of unity, courage, and humanity that reflects his very essence. Tonight we honor Riaz Mullah, a man of faith, integrity, and service, whose compassion and conviction embody the enduring spirit of Ahmed Kathrada.
Assalamu alaikum. Greetings to you all. I'm extremely humbled today to receive this award, especially in the name of Ahmed Kathrada. I remember I was a young man from this little small town coming to the big city, my first year of university, where I first learned of Ahmed Kathrada. And really, I held him in such awe, and I looked up to him to such a degree. Now, while we're sitting here today, I just want you to keep in your minds and thoughts the 500 or more children that are languishing in those hellholes they call prisons of Israel. I want you to keep in mind in your thoughts 10,000 to 11,000 men and women that are in those prisons. I want you to keep in your thoughts the people of the West Bank and Ramallah that every morning have to get up and face that horrendous apartheid system. And must I say about Gaza, what must I say? You've seen it all. You've seen it all on your social media, on your phones every single day. These are the heroes that I dedicate this award to. I thank you.
The CBE is honored to present the Ahmed Kathrada Excellence in Leadership Award to Sukiswa Wana, an acclaimed author, cultural icon, and activist whose voice has long championed truth and justice. The author of the 5 novels, 4 children books, and numerous essays, Sukiswa's words have inspired generations across continents. In 2020, she was awarded the Goethe Medal by the German government for her outstanding contribution to culture. But in 2024, she made a bold moral stand, returning that very medal in protest of Germans' complicity in the genocide in Gaza and the silencing of pro-Palestinian cultural voices. Her 2023 essay, Vignettes of a People in Apartheid State, and her documentation of her journey on the Global Summit Flotilla bear witness to her courage and conscience. Tonight we honor Sukiswa Wana, a fearless writer, thinker, and activist whose pen and presence continue to illuminate the path towards justice and humanity.
Today is International Day of Solidarity with Palestine. So there have been activities all over the world to mark this. I went with my sister Elam to a primary school in Lenasia. And it's called Impala Crescent Primary School. And Impala Crescent Primary School allowed us, we made a call to children because I think everybody has been doing very much a Free Baguti campaign, but I think so often we also forget, as my brother Riaz mentioned, that there are 528 children that are put in Zionist jails. And of course, my brother Riaz would know what Zionist jails are like because he and I were in Kitsiot and we were treated much better because the world was watching. This is not the case for a lot of those children. It's not the case for the men and women who are in Zionist jails. And so in getting this award, I'm very honored to be sitting with my brother and sister, Haida and Rivka Eid, as we made the trip on the flotilla. They were with me constantly encouraging, and I think one of the greatest heartbreaks that Riaz and I were on the same boat had was we got intercepted 28 nautical miles from Gaza. So it kind of feels like you are being rewarded for failure by being given this award. And so it's not something that really, but thank you very much for giving it. And I really am sharing it with my brother and sister who are with me. But even as we do that, let's not despair. Firstly, any of you, when you go to Lenasia, it's a living testament. We've got this, our children, South African children, have done these drawings. They're beautiful, and you can go there, you can walk in. It's an exhibition, and it's a reminder. It needs to remind us constantly. So there is that. My brother Jared already mentioned, let's also please, please, please continue pushing for the deregistration of Glencore, or for at least us not sending coal to Let's push our National Prosecuting Authority, not only for the people who have been committing a genocide in the last 2 years, but there's a list of names of people who committed genocide in 2014. They were given that list. They haven't done anything on it. Please. And our parliament, which is the third, which is part of government, voted in November 2023 for us to shut down the Israeli embassy. No, we have not shut it down yet. Why is that? Why is there no pressure? So something has been done, but much more can still be done. Much more can still be done. Let's not do business with a genocidal state. The world supported us during apartheid, and we need to understand that, you know, Palestine is ground zero, but it's an indication of a greater and deeper problem. It's Stilfontein, it's Marikana, it's Congo, it's Sudan. All these are coming from the same scripts. They're coming from a script of greed. And we need to do something because, as we all know, for evil to prosper, good people do nothing. And let's not be the good people who do nothing. So continue to boycott, continue to divest, pushing for divestment, continue pushing for sanctions, continue academic boycotts. We don't need to do any knowledge exchange with Israel as they're killing people. Let's continue pushing for this, and yeah, Palestine will be free, inshallah.
The CBE is honored to present the Ahmed Kathrada Excellence in Leadership Award to Dr. Zahra Sumar, a courageous activist, scholar, and mother whose moral conviction and compassion transcend fear. Before joining the global summit Flotilla to Gaza, Dr. Sumar spoke of her decision with calm resolve, saying it is about solidarity, preparation, and knowing that what we are doing can make a difference. Watching a genocide unfold without acting is not an option. Despite the immense logistical and emotional challenges of the journey, she and her comrades returned with no regrets, only a deeper understanding of what it means to stand with the oppressed. Even in our hardest moments, she said, we were exactly where we were meant to be. Tonight we honor Dr. Zahra Sumar, a woman of faith, courage, and conscience, whose leadership reminds us that true humanity is found in standing for justice, no matter the cost. The CBE is honored to present the Ahmed Kathrada Excellence in Leadership Award to Chief Mandla Mandela, a leader who continues the legacy of his grandfather, Nelson Mandela. With courage, dignity, and an unwavering commitment to justice, upon the return of the South African delegation deported by Israel, Chief Mandela spoke out powerfully about the harsh treatment they endured. Their hands bound, their heads forced down, a stark reminder of the brutality faced by those who dare stand for truth. He affirmed South Africa's moral stance at the International Court of Justice, declaring that the nation would not be silenced in its pursuit of accountability and justice for the people of Palestine. Even when approached by Israeli officials seeking political spectacle, he stood firm, refusing symbolism over substance and upholding the integrity of his mission. Tonight we honor Chief Mandla Mandela, a statesman, activist, and torchbearer of a proud legacy, whose voice reminds the world that freedom and justice are struggles that must be renewed in every generation.
Award recipients, one more time. And where is Mr. Sammy Naidu sitting? Sammy, where are you? He's in the corner. It's typical of people who do the hard work to sit in the background. but I'm not going to let that happen today. The CBE wants to appreciate you for your consistent support and this beautiful magazine, I think that you, or this brochure that you provide every year for the awards. Thank you so much for your continued support. Much appreciated. There's one item of business before there's a delicious dinner that's prepared. I'm going to tell you all about it in just a moment. But to the point that Jared and others were making, South Africa continues, as you talked about coal, even after our ICJ bid, those coal exports went up. They went up by about, I think, 17% as at January this year, compared to January of last year. And it's not just coal, of course, there's fruit, there's juices, I think there's diamonds as well, there's a range of different things. And so if we really want to show the commitment practically, as to your point, there is pressure that we have to continue to bring to bear. In the last hour, I was just checking the news wires. If we think, and in many places, and I work in a newsroom every single day, stories about what's happening in the occupied territories move lower and lower down the news diary because we're dealing with a lot of problems here at home. But just in the last hour, Reuters reminds us that the death toll in the occupied territories is now at 70,000. This is in the context of a ceasefire. What ceasefire? So we have to maintain that pressure. We have to use moments like this where we can come and show solidarity, where we can celebrate each other as fuel in the tank to continue to keep that kind of pressure up and to keep the focus. We try in our newsrooms all the time to make sure that it is in the news agenda and in the diary. And while we talk about Gaza, let's also remember Sudan. As we eat and drink, and I mean, I hate to make it uncomfortable, but 21 people are dying of hunger in Sudan alone, and that's in the African continent. We have to care about the humanitarian crisis and the genocide that's unfolding on our own African continent. So I just wanted to put that into your mind. But I also just want to say how proud I am and how humbled I am to be here tonight, to be doing something that's so powerful and so honorable. And it really, in the face of all of this bad news that we deal with, Justice Krikla, every day, to know that there are South Africans and people who have a heart for other people is just so encouraging. And as Ilham's name says, it's an inspiration for us to continue and to do more going forward. All right, so this is my friend. He's who actually got me here tonight. This is Farad Omar. I know everybody in the community knows Farad. So I want to welcome him up. He's the media partner for this event. He is the founder of INX Media and, of course, of Media Valley. If you guys have not been to see Media Valley, there's something phenomenal that is happening not too far from where I live in Northcliffe. I think blockbusters are on the horizon. There's a whole lot of technology and innovation. And I always find it really exciting and exhilarating to be in Farad Omar's company. So please can we give him a lovely round of applause. Pyrotechnics.
Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. You know, I was always plagued by a story. Nations who bury their stories are doomed to wake up in graves dug by their enemies. And that resonated with me from a very young age. I always asked myself, why is it that major scientists that have made phenomenal contributions are not remembered in today's time? Why don't we remember people like Al-Jabr, the founder of modern mathematics? And came to realize that all this is because either access or distribution or the ability to get our stories out on broad, wide platforms. I spoke to you years ago about a dream of INX, where we wanted to come with a platform that's going to unify communities. It's not going to look at religion as a basis of segregation, but a means for us to come together, to love one another, to trust one another. And I'm grateful to say that we've made huge impacts with that. But our journey has not ended. With the recent culling of the DTI rebate for storytellers and looking at how the world's becoming more and more insular, we need to create platforms and venues where we're able to encourage our storytellers to tell their stories so that 100 years from now, these moments are remembered, not in Trump's skewed version of a genocide against the Afrikaans people, which has been shunned everywhere, yet is used as a reason. And I'd like to say I'm very, very proud of our country. I attended the B20 summit, and it was amazing watching our president defy wrapped in dignity. because that's what he did. And that made me proud, and I'm sure it made all of you proud. But I'd like to say we've launched Media Valley. It is the trailblazer on the African continent, if I might say so myself, changing the ability for production, allowing us to bring those stories to life and to ensure that these stories are remembered. I'm not going to talk much longer because I know we all need to eat, so I'll leave with a small video that will show you what our capabilities are, and we look forward to engaging. Shukran, assalamu alaikum.
Hello, I'm Katie Catapodis, and I'm coming to you live from Hong Kong International Airport. Or am I?
The future is brilliant. Look at this. This is the future. NBC will bring it to you.
I think that's so fabulous, and I'm hoping maybe for the elections next year to be able to play with some of those tools to bring to life our election coverage. All right, who's hungry? Let me tell you what we got. Veg biryani, paneer, chicken, and okay, I'm gonna let you find out for yourself. Please do enjoy dinner, and what we're gonna do for you while you're enjoying your dinner is you see the harp, and I think it's an accordion. I've never seen those two instruments played together myself, so I'm really looking forward to being entertained by, I think it's called Nirvana Stars. I just want to read the name properly. It's Narisha Singh and Alicia Badal. They're going to be doing a duet for us. And apparently it's just the most magical thing. So I'm really looking forward to it. And that is what is going to accompany your dinner. I hope you enjoy it. Ladies and gentlemen, I would love to invite you to take your seats again. Except for the people in the dessert line. That is critical. Do not lose your spot. So just be mindful. We are actually doing a live broadcast. So please be mindful of the cameras. When you're moving around. Can I get us to perhaps just lower the volume just a little? We've got 2 pieces left in our program. We're going to have I think what is going to be a really robust conversation, which is going to be moderated by my sister and colleague, Juanita Hunter, who also works with me at the Newsroom, African Newsroom. And then we're going to have the vote of thanks, and then we will see each other again next year. So before we get into the panel discussion, let's just listen to this video.
Ubuntu does not mean that people should not enrich themselves.
Ubuntu, speaking truth to power. In the heart of South Africa beats a word that transcends language. Ubuntu. I am because we are. It is more than a philosophy. It is our moral compass. The spirit that carried us from the dark days of apartheid into democracy. And today, the same spirit that compels us to speak truth to power. Ours is a nation forged in struggle, one that knows the sting of injustice and the price of freedom. From the townships of Soweto to the cells of Robben Island, South Africans learned that silence in the face of oppression is complicity. So when the bombs began to fall on Gaza, when the innocent were buried beneath the rubble, South Africans did what we've always done. We stood on the side of justice. In 2024, our government, led by the spirit of Ubuntu, took a bold step. It stood before the world's highest court and accused Israel of genocide. It was more than a legal act. It was a moral declaration that no nation, however powerful, is above humanity.
The Palestinian issue is front and center of the world, and that is a very important achievement through this case brought by South Africa.
South Africa carries a sacred responsibility to remind the world that justice must never depend on geography, race, or religion.
The Palestinians are lost in this world without someone that they can depend on, like they have depended on South Africa. But when you return to a crowd like this, and with warmth and a sense of Ubuntu,
We have known the pain of apartheid, and we refuse to watch another people suffer it again. And when the government fought in the courtroom, ordinary South Africans took to the seas. There were doctors, teachers, activists, people of conscience joining the Freedom Flotilla, determined to break the blockade of Gaza and deliver aid, knowing full well the risks they faced. Their journey was not about food and medicine. It was about dignity. It was about reminding the world that our humanity is bound together. From Cape Town to Johannesburg, from Durban to Polokwane, the call for justice echoes across generations. South Africans, black, white, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, united by a simple truth. Freedom is indivisible. Ubuntu teaches us that humanity is tied to the humanity of others, that when Gaza bleeds, our conscience must ache.
We anticipated two scenarios: that we will be successful in our mission and get to Gaza, or we will be intercepted by apartheid Israel.
Justice, real justice, knows no borders. Speaking truth to power is never easy, but history judges those who had the courage to speak and those who chose silence. Ubuntu demands that we choose courage. This is the legacy of South Africa, a nation that turned its pain into purpose, a people who remembered where they came from, and who stand unflinchingly for those who are still fighting to be free. Because Ubuntu is not just who we are, it is what we owe the world. Ubuntu, speaking truth to power.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I come with a pile of books, so it's going to be a very serious 30 minutes now. We would love to get your attention as we indulge in a very, very important conversation that I am absolutely privileged to have this evening. Let me welcome on stage for this very brief panel discussion this evening. First up, let's welcome Ambassador Ibrahim Rasool, followed by Brother Riaz, followed by my dearest sister Zukiswa, and then Sister Fatima.
Why did you call the guys first?
So like I warned all of you before we came up here, is that I have my own questions and I come backed up with a lot of homework that I have done. But the most important question that I have been asking myself, Ambassador, in the last 3 months or so, as this sort of empathy was waning, or when people started getting more and more fatigued, is why do we support Palestine? What is at the nexus of it? So I understand the rehearsed kind of, we stand up for justice, but I want to know, what is it about Palestine that makes it this moral obligation that we spoke about? Is there a starting point to you to say, what is it particularly significant, characteristic about the Palestinian struggle that makes it a humanity struggle?
No, thank you very much. I think we all go through those fluctuations of emotions. Sometimes the world overwhelms us and we tend to put it on the back burner, and then it comes rushing onto our consciousness. I think what makes the Palestinian struggle so visceral for South Africans is because we know whatever we went through, the apartheid we suffered under is on steroids in Palestine. We know how Soweto was suffering, but Soweto never had bombs thrown on them. We know that the armies came into our townships, but they never mowed us down in a way that we have seen on our television screens about what was happening in Gaza. So for us, as a nation who stared down our supremacists, we can fully recognize the supremacists in Palestine in the form of Zionism. So that's, for me, the one thing that we are moved because of that identification with the Palestinians. The second thing is that we are very conscious of the fact that Palestine has been called out as the battleground between unilateralism and impunity on the one hand, unilateralism from the USA, impunity by Israel, and the humanitarian instinct that is being defended in Palestine. And so when we gather together for that battle, and we do it with our strategy and our tactics and our humanitarian support, we know that we are called upon to be on the battlefield between those spheres. And it is not an accident in the symmetry of Donald Trump's lies against South Africa. We took Israel to the International Court for Justice and charged it with genocide. He charges South Africa with genocide against whites.
To cheapen the word.
To cheapen the word and to make it as if there is a moral equivalence. We took Israel to the International Court of Justice for land occupation. He charges us with land confiscation. We gave Palestinians a word to describe their suffering called apartheid oppression. He says we are oppressing whites. So he's trying to create a false equivalent, and by that, we know that Palestine is the human center of conscience in the world today.
Yeah. And so, whenever you travel anywhere in the world, when you identify as South Africa in post the ICJ case, there is a heroic sense of welcome that you get just by virtue of being South African. So, Brother Riaz, talk to me about what it is about being South African that makes someone say, I'm going to live a very comfortable life and risk it all for that flotilla.
Well, first of all, I just want to say that's the least, the absolute least that I felt personally that I could do. There's so much more. But within myself, there was a sense of frustration. And having experienced apartheid, it gives us, it's a greater incentive actually. But also I just want to say quickly, you know, continuing for what the ambassador said, there's a clear distinction now between good and evil, really. With social media and that, the world is sort of much smaller place. And there's a clear line, that's especially what I learned in Tunisia. And we have to decide whether on which side of history we're going to be on, exactly. So being South African is just more of an incentive. And really, for me personally, it was just the absolute least that I could do.
Zukiso, I thought about you and some of the public statements you have made when I came across this paragraph by Umar Al-Aqad. He's a well-known journalist and writer. In the book, One Day When It's Safe, when there's no personal downside to calling a thing what it is, when it's too late to hold anyone accountable, everyone will have always been against this, right? And he talks about one day there will be an accounting, even as so often those who did the worst thing imaginable in the killing fields were allowed to meld back into polite society. The man who put the bullet in the little girl's head might return to coach Little League games. The patrol that opened fire on the starving civilians might meet up every now and then for karaoke nights, might celebrate what they did when it was still acceptable, but over the years grow quieter and finally bond over a shared silence thicker than blood. He continues and he says, and yet against all these things, one day things will change. Alongside the ledger of atrocity, which we've seen in real time, I keep another, the Palestinian doctors who would not abandon his patients, the Icelandic writer who raised money to get the displaced out of Gaza. And just to add, in my personal ledger, your names are there. People who will remember, who we will remember when one day everything is safe and justice will be a lot more comfortable. Everyone would have been against it. At that time, we will remember your courageous actions. And so, talk to me about this comfort we saw in the world where it's okay. What do you think made it okay in 2025 to still have a televised genocide?
Fear. I think there's a fear of capital. There's a fear of losing certain things. So, for instance, you will have the president of Zambia taking a photo, with the son of Donald Trump, who's there on holiday, as if Donald Trump would take a photo with his son when he goes on whatever. And,
can I just pause you there to ask the crowd to be a little quiet? We are in a live broadcast, so we want to make the most out of this conversation. I know we also up against time. So Zukiso, you're talking about the Zambian president who
And you see them opening up an Israeli embassy, and they're making a big noise about it. And yet this man purports to be a Christian. He purports to believe in certain things. And, I always wonder, I don't know, Jesus would be very mad at Christians, Christian Zionists in particular, and those who purport to be. But I think so there's fear, but I have to say one of the most beautiful things that I experienced, not just in Tunisia, but when we were on the Flotilla and later on when we're in Kitio prison, is something in me, you think you are alone when you're watching these things on your phone and you're watching a live stream genocide, but, it gave me hope. It gave me hope and it made me realize, we're the 99% and they are the 1%. But a lot of the 99% are actually perhaps, not quite aware, or they don't want to, they don't want discomfort and whatever. And I'm like, maybe we need to be uncomfortable. Do you absolutely need to have a Coke? Is that important? Do you have to have McDonald's? So that these questions, so when you see all these people from across the world, Riaz will tell you, after the bout of seasickness, After the vows of sisterhood.
How long did it take you for the rocking to stop?
No. We were actually, I think Riaz and I were quite fine. The person who had it the worst was Ashraf, from Tunisia. But we were actually, after the bout of seasickness, we actually had to drop some of our fellow participants, because they were too sick. We all sat down, and we hadn't, after you've seen people throw up, you can't exactly have any, I am an ambassador, I am an MP, and whatever. And those were the type, I'm an imam, and those were the people who were in there. But after that, we all sat down and we said, why are each and every one of you here? And that moment was such a beautiful moment for everybody. And thereafter, I remember, you'd see somebody is a bit sad, and, they'll be like, no, don't worry, I'll take care of that for you. How you doing? Like it was family. And it still is family, because everybody talks, we still talk, we're planning our next mission. Don't let my son hear this. Oh,
you heard nothing.
Yes, but it's realizing that there are a lot more people that are feeling the way we do.
Yeah.
And we think we're the only ones, but we're not the only ones. So all we need to do is galvanize each other's strength, We need to get into a space where we say, why are we okay with the idea? And this keeps being repeated all over the world. This keeps being repeated by governments that purport to support Palestine. Why are we okay with the idea of a two-state solution when we didn't like Bantustans? Why is that okay with us?
Yeah.
So when you start questioning that, very essence of, well, actually the West Bank, and when Oslo happened, there were probably 90,000 or 100,000 settlers. And now there are 900,000 settlers. When you start thinking about that, you start questioning this whole idea of a two-state solution. There is only one state, Palestine, river to sea.
Amandla. Dr. Fatima, you speak about this Fard Kifaya, and it's something so powerful, because it moves then to be some sort of exceptional thing to do versus an obligation. And when it's an obligation to stand up when people are being mowed down, then there's a certain level of seriousness that we have to transcend our egos and ourselves, and we have to understand that sitting here tonight is part of that Fard Kifaya. But whether for me it may be in my writing, for you it may be in your work, for another person it may be in their teachings. But in understanding that this is not a hobby to have, Palestinian activism is not a fun hobby, that it is a moral obligation. How do you enact that?
Thank you so much for that question. I think I really want to center God consciousness in this conversation, because when we think about why we believe in God, what is it about the values that we're upholding that drive our faith? What are they? And for Islam, we have the maqasid al-Sharia, the objectives of the Sharia, the objectives of Islamic law, the objectives of the Quran. And one of the key objectives is the preservation of life, the preservation of lineage, the preservation of faith, the preservation of human dignity, the preservation of material resources, of wealth. And if we are to declare that I am a believer in my faith, how is it then that we are able to ignore the moral obligation of standing up firmly for justice, where compound injustice is happening? The compound injustice that is being perpetuated in Sudan, in Palestine, is built on settler colonialism. It's built on dehumanization. It is built on extraction. And on top of this these compound injustice, we have another injustice, which is the silence and the violence from the international community. And so we have to talk about what the secondary violence is. The secondary violence that we're speaking about is you and I in our abandonment of the people, of occupied peoples around the world. When we, as business people, continue to do business with the Israeli occupiers, when we as business people walk into any supermarket and you will still see all the banned products, all the boycott products still being sold on the shelves. And so there is a point where we really need to, building off of what my panelists are speaking about, is really look at our own moral accountability. Are we really living to the values that we espouse? And so, for example, today, I was at this morning with the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. We were at the footsteps of the statue at the Union Buildings of Nelson Mandela. And the Free Marwan campaign was activated.
And that's Marwan Barghouti, the Palestinian
This is
prisoner.
Marwan Barghouti, right? So Marwan Barghouti, who has spent 22 years approximately in Israeli jails, right? In Israeli prison. He is our Palestinian Mandela, right? When we look at why there's such reluctance to mobilize globally for the release of political prisoners, why is it that we want and we expected the international community to rally around the freedom for Nelson Mandela and the freedom of our political prisoners and the return of our exiles and a solution in the ridding of the Bantustans? But when we have the same call, there's this cautiousness of being, oh, I'm not really sure that that's what I want to do, to become politically embroiled in the politics of Palestine. And that is some of the sensing that we have here. So we have to
Because it's not that complicated.
That's it. We really have to look at what are the values we're living by and what is the courage that we need to make sure that these values are being upheld.
Juanita, can I just come in quickly?
Yes.
I was just listening to Sami Hamdi the other day, and he said, it's not that the Arab leaders cannot do anything. It's not that the world cannot do anything. It's that they choose not to do anything.
Yeah.
And also quickly, I don't know if you know of Georges Abdullah. He was an activist. He was jailed for 41 years in France. And he also, the same sentiment, he actually put it this way: how many Muslims are there in the world? There's almost 2 billion. And he says Egypt has 104 million people. If just 2 million people had to make their way to the Rafah border, who would stop them? And the last point that he said was, how many people, and this stuck in my mind, which actually led me to go on the Flotilla, how many people have died trying to get into Gaza to help our brothers and sisters?
Sure. And so that question, the question of why does the status quo exist, has been the thing that has been plaguing me. I went as far back as dusting out Ghassan Kanifani, who is a well-known, probably the best thinkers in the Arab world, whose work is not celebrated enough, just to understand why. You know, we talk about this complicity of Israel. This is a tiny, 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 newish state, Ambassador. And we talk about, you know, he links it to world imperialism. And you linked at least what was happening in the US and what got you declared persona non grata to white supremacy. But there is this blatant complicity by the US and by the allies of Israel in a way that doesn't seem to be becoming less empowered. It's almost, the world pressure is not making the system crack. So what is going to make the system crack?
You know, Juanita, the thing is that if we focus on the Arab regimes and on governments in the West, we will get a very pessimistic picture. For me, what Donald Trump, what Netanyahu And what Keir Starmer and everyone is fearing is the rebellion from the citizenry.
Right.
That's what the case in the ICJ has done. When we presented a clear case and we argued it well, world passions got. In the US, the campus rose against the Capitol. In Europe, the public square rose against the parliament. And in the Arab streets, they made the palaces nervous. So much so that even though MBS was ready to sign the Abraham Accords, he's finding reasons to delay because his Mukhabarat is saying it will be a bridge too far. We have learned as South Africans, we've never won the White House before we won Congress. And we've never won Congress before we won the unions. And we've never won the unions before we won civil society and so forth. That is the order in which we should focus our work. There's no shortcuts in a revolution. There's no shortcuts to go directly to the White House and get rid of the impunity and the imperialism and all of that. What our focus must be is to magnify the kind of Mamdani effect across the USA. That is why Trump invites Mamdani, because he knows there's not enough Muslims to have given him the votes that he won the mayorship with, and therefore he's chasing that. Keir Starmer did not support the Palestinian state because that's his policy. It's because the British people are saying, we've seen the genocide, it must stop. The same thing with Macron, the same thing with all the leaders. And so I'm saying there is no substitute for hard grassroots work that must be done, for crafting the message. There's no substitute. You can't declare a boycott on Coke. You've got to go into the townships. If you go into the townships, the trucks are offloading Coke because we've not done the work to tell people the connection between that Coke that they're drinking. We thought if we declare it as a moral obligation, it will just happen. Abracadabra does not exist in politics. And that's the hard work that I think we must now start to do here and abroad. And we must also, just to end on it, we must not underestimate that all the money that our Palestinian solidarity movements can gather is not going to touch the kind of money that is going into right-wing evangelical churches to create a backlash in South Africa.
Absolutely.
The backlash is, why are we losing our jobs at Goodyear Tires for standing up for the Palestinians, but the Muslims don't even vote for us? Why are we losing our jobs at Ford, but the Arabs are not doing anything? They're making no sacrifice. So if we don't calibrate for a backlash even, we are in a bubble, and we think as long as we are in that bubble, everything is great. We lose the job of what politics is.
Absolutely. And
Khalita, may I just say something?
Yes.
You know, I also think, though, that I think we now kind of need to meet the Zionist aura to aura for aura, you know? One of the largest groups of settlers are actually white South Africans in Israel.
Yeah.
They literally have apartheid nostalgia, you know? So I think we need to get into a space. You see South African Zionist Federation, you see South African Jewish Board of Deputies, you see Solidarity, you see AfriForum. These are hate groups.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they're so platformed sometimes on some of our news stations, some of our radio stations. I don't know why that happens. But I think we need to meet them now, aura for aura. Keep them so busy. Keep them. I would love to have somebody just have a desk, and all they do is watch the statements that these guys go and then take them to equality courts, take them to South African human rights, keep them so busy that they can't cause mischief.
But that's exactly what I've been speaking about, is that when you are in the public media, in the media space, you don't understand the level of pressure that your every comma and your every full stop is under scrutiny, right? And for some of us who have transcended preaching to the converted, if you like, and trying to take up space there, you are under pressure every single day, and you almost feel like you're alone in that battle when you have your Rob Hersofs of the world pumping millions of rands in what? In right-wing podcasts. When we have big businesses who don't see the value of supporting the media, but we want to fight a narrative battle. It's it's a difficult one because there is something you can do. You can support spaces that give voices to people calling for justice.
Absolutely, I agree.
And so I love your idea because you professionalize the resistance in a way that it's not only us talking among ourselves, but it's almost that it's when I think about what I went through in post-October 7 in my former workplace, where that pressure sits on your neck every single day. And if that pressure can be pushed, redirected in another way, you'd have a whole different ecosystem. Dr. Fatima, talk to me about steam, about losing steam in a fight like this, where we don't have the luxury of saying, this ends on the 24th of December. What do we do?
It is the point of, again, back to the moral compass about what is it that we breathe, that we eat, that we live in our daily lives. Is what I am living every single day steeped in an ethical life? Am I feeding my children food that has been ethically grown? Am I putting butter in my body that has been manufactured by Zionists? I mean, these are the fundamental questions about what type of life that we wish to live individually. And that type of answer should be sufficient in driving our passion and our courage to live more ethically and to live to the values that we say we have. Look, the question is this, and I think this is something that we need to think about. What type of lives are our children going to be living? I mean, I was in the cell with Greta Thunberg. She's a 22-year-old activist, and she's repeatedly said this from the time she's been a young teen. She's repeatedly said, I stand up because this is my world that I am going to inherit, that I'm inheriting. And so this is the question. What world are we leaving for our children and the generations to come if we do not act? It is going to be, and it is, grim. And this should really scare us, particularly as parents, as educators, as healthcare workers, where we see the kind of society that we want to be living in become fragmented. It becomes, one of just extraction and individualism, and us being part of the system that is creating the problem. So the question really comes down to the fact that we're each accountable, and answering this question of, am I living to the values that I say I'm upholding?
Rifat al-Arir is a literary giant who was killed in the genocide. He wrote a poem that says, on the shores of the Mediterranean, I saw humanity drenched in salt, face down, dead, eyes gouged, hands up to the sky, praying or trembling in fear. I could not tell. The sea, harsher than the heart of an Arab, dances, soaked with blood. Only the pebbles wept. Only the pebbles. All the perfume of Arabia will not grace the wrath Israel breeds. Brother Riaz, you were sailing that Mediterranean. What went through your mind persistently as you edged 26 nautical miles? Was it 28? 28 nautical miles to Gaza.
Really, okay, we did not reach the shores of Gaza. But I just want to move on from what you're saying. The awareness that is created, is to such a degree. Very, very quickly, I'm a farmer. I live in Newcastle on a farm, and there was a man that lives on a mountain, far away in a rural place. I don't even know if he has access to social media, but he actually came to my home and to see me. And he says, he left a message, I want to speak to you. So when I went to him, he says, I'm so glad you're back.
But really, he now understood the whole picture. And I asked him, do you understand what's going on here? And he says, yes, the Zionists are killing our people. And this is, he understood the struggle basically. So just on the other side, it is changing. There's waves of change. And inshallah, this wave, we've got to keep it continuing. I understand what you're saying, but it's also, we got to have hope. We just have to have hope.
Umar Al-Aqad said recently at an event that I was at, he said, hope is an act of revolution. That you can't, there's no option not to have hope. But as we get to the close of this conversation, Ambassador, and this is a very selfish question. Zukisa talks about the focus on a two-state solution. When do we start having a serious conversation about the Palestinian state in a meaningful way, not in the theoretical way, not in the Bantustan way? Can you have that conversation when an active genocide is happening, and who leads that conversation?
I think the contemporary battle is not about a two-state. The contemporary battle is about whether the one state will be Israeli or whether it will be Palestinian. It should be whether it will be democratic, equal, free, and non-racial. It should be that. But it's not that. We have a desperate attempt by the Israelis before the world wipes its eyes out that it will be a single Israeli state from the river to the sea. That is the design, that's the facts on the ground, and it will be one with Palestinian holes. I call it the Swiss cheese option.
Yeah.
It will be one with Palestinian holes in which the homeland system will be alive and well. That's the battle. The rest is theory. And I think, therefore, I believe that we are fighting three massacres. There's the genocide, the killing of a genealogy.
Yes.
There is the patricide, the killing of the idea of a Palestinian state. And the one that can turn it around is if we prevent the vericide, the killing of the truth. And therefore, what we need to do with our children is to give them the tools to understand and discern the truth. When we were fighting the anti-apartheid struggle, when you spoke the truth, they banned you, they jailed you. When the newspapers published the truth, they banned it, they thick-lined it, and all of those. They jailed the journalists, all of those kind of things, because it was an attempt to kill the truth. Today, they don't try to kill the truth. Although they kill journalists and everyone else, they flood the zone with lies. You see, this impunity works on the fact that if you throw so much lies and you double down on the lies, that the world will be so confused that you decenter the debate. You've now got to consider whether Donald Trump is telling the truth that white farm work murders can be genocide. So any newspaper, any TV has to start from what he has defined as the center. And so if we don't stop that, we don't stop the patricide. We don't stop the genocide. And that is why, and I know people say the ICJ case is good, but it's not enough, and it's true. But the fact is, if we don't understand that that is where we are throwing in, not for the court case victory, but that's where we are digging a trench to save the truth and to push the truth forward, then I think it is the turnaround of the patricide and the turnaround of the genocide.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize that moment in January 24 when we decided not to make it about October 7.
Yes.
When we started 70 years ago, and I think that the repercussions that South Africa faces and will continue to face, because by no means that Trump is going to end by not inviting us to the G20 Miami in his backyard. I think it's, Ambassador, it's going to be far, far, far more worse. But the point is that I don't think we internalized what it is that we were up against by not making it, even in taking the Palestinian side, we went to the heart, we went too far, if you like.
No, we attacked 3 intersecting supremacisms.
Yeah.
We don't understand the fact that Trump is surrounded by our residual white supremacists.
Done.
Elon Musk, Peter Thiel,
Apartheid hangovers.
They are the ones who recruited J.D. Vance from Yale, put him in PayPal, and presented him as the vice presidential candidate. And he's been the most active vice president. And he is the Manchurian candidate waiting in 27, whenever the next election is. That's the one intersecting. MAGA is the other one, and the Zionist supremacism is the third one. Those 3 intersecting, reinforcing ones are the foundations from which I think the neo-colonial project is being launched. And it is not occupying the land of the Arabs. It is occupying the palaces of the Arabs with candidates who are there.
And so the complicity.
Ice boys for empire.
Ice boys.
Ice boys for empire, as I call them.
I'm just thinking here quickly. Economically, they have the might. The Zionists have the economic might, the economic power, and that gives them military power. So, in my mind, I'm thinking, we need to starve them economically. Hopefully, militarily, they will be downsided. And having experienced, we have experienced the audacity of these people. It just brings my mind, we need to lower them a bit, economically and militarily. That's the practical thing that I was just thinking about right now.
And I think it's also really important to call on nations. I mean, I know South Africa has done ICJ, but, United for Peace, that Colombia has pitched, this is very important. They need the support. So we need to call on all our civilian friends, civil society in the different countries to push their governments. When we were on the flotilla, you saw what the people of Italy did. They brought Italy to a shutdown, and Meloni was panicking. I think she thought she was going to be overthrown, and that's when she sent the naval ships to accompany us to a certain distance. So, United for Peace, really, we need to push that, because that nonsense peace plan that was taken by the Security Council is a genocidal peace plan. It's a peace plan that truly erases Palestinians, and we're okay with it.
Something, I think that we also need to have a really candid conversation in South Africa, really at grassroots level. Because when I walk into a store and I speak to, people that are working there, often the responses are, but look, we have to believe in Israel because that's what our Bible says.
Yeah.
And so unless we understand about what is being funded in our local communities by design, right, of the narratives that are being pushed and how that narrative is becoming widespread and is really becoming so pervasive, unless we really begin to grapple with these narratives one-on-one and as collectives and communities, we're going to find ourselves in deeper water than we are right now. Because if anyone is deluded that we are safe from Zionism in this country, we are way, way deluded. The Zionism threat in this country is real. It's personal, it's tangible. We see it in land acquisitions. We see it in business dealings. We see it in the narrative, in the universities and in the cultural expressions. And we see this manifestation of Zionism as racism, especially in the province from which I come, which is the Western Cape. So at multiple levels, we have to mobilize and to get out of this kind of delusion that is being created by the ICJ measures to say we've taken, South Africa's taken, has made these moves towards the ICJ, and so therefore we're safe. We're not safe.
We see it in the political
We
party
are.
funding space.
Absolutely,
No, but
absolutely.
we've seen even like institutions. The HCSPCA has actually went and they are really traumatizing Dr. Tlaleng, who has just said there is a genocide happening. She's UN Women Rapporteur, and they went and they did that. And now, of course, she's fighting the case, as so she should. But this is a country where Dr. Vuta Bason's Dr. Death is still practicing. How does that work? We allow, and his case, by the way, it went nowhere. The courts decided that, there's nothing there, Dr. Death. Make that make sense.
And in addition to that, we need to ask the question, how are each of us self-censoring? Because there's a lot of self-censorship that we're engaged in, right? How many of us are really, brave and able to say, it's okay, to be able to speak up? This whole event here is about speaking truth to power and the calls of action that matches this truth to power. But when it comes down to the spaces at work, when it comes down to spaces of being in the classroom, it comes down to spaces within social settings, there is a self-censorship that is very loud and deafening. And this is something that we have to challenge socially as well. Because the more of us speak up, the more of the collective, the more it becomes the norm, the more it becomes mainstream, the more it's grassroots, the more collective we have.
And so let's wrap it up then. I'm going to start with you, Ambassador. What is holding truth to power for you?
I think there is no condition under which truth should not be spoken. The only question is, how is it spoken strategically, to whom, and at what moment? And I think that there are, and as I said earlier, truth must be spoken like a scalpel. It must be able to dissect what you are speaking against. And so for me, the idea of speaking truth in Washington was that it was heard in the Oval Office, it heard the Oval Office, and it had an immediate response. And so what I'm saying is, we need, if we speak all the time and we just throw out things, we can be like those who cry wolf. Whereas the strategic interventions that must be made, with the strategic words that are being made, and with the strategic impact, I think that that is what truth to power is. Truth is not a passionate thing only. It is a strategic thing.
Shukran. Brother Riaz?
I would like to relate more to an individual level. And, first of all, is to create this awareness, start at grassroots individual level. We need to create an awareness, and I'm going to say it 3 times, awareness. And after that, it's about motivating ourselves firstly. Because if we're not motivated, it's not going to filter up. Motivate ourselves and mobilize. The next step is mobilize, and then you get to action. So that's just a path that I think that we should follow, more as an individual, more at grassroots level, and hopefully this will filter up gradually higher up.
Zukiswa?
I think when we think about the future, that always leads you to start thinking about it. Like, I don't want a future where my child does not have a home, where he can't be able to go anywhere, but he's not welcome in this country because he's scared or because of whatever. So in order for that future to be okay, we need to set it right. We need to speak our truth, but we also need to act our truths. We need to push for the things that we'd like. What does justice look like? And perhaps part of the problem, why we have such a Zionist problem in this country, is because we had an absence of war and we called it peace. There was never really justice, and people did not account for their sins. And because they didn't account for their sins, they just thought, oh, wow, you know, we wouldn't have done that. Maybe these people are stupid. So I can go and say there's a genocide. Ernest, why aren't you going to America? You know, if there's a genocide that's happening in your country, you know, and you're so in fear, and they're like 247 race laws or whatever it is you want to say. So it's sometimes, truth to power sometimes means muting the silly voices. Just, no, I'm not going to give you a platform. I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to block you out. And I think we need to normalize not listening to those voices. We need to deplatform them. And if we do that, then they'll be talking to themselves in their little Facebook groups or whatever. And that's okay. They can stay there, you know?
Dr. Fatima? For me, in this civilizational moment that we're in, it's a moment of great opportunities. And we see this in the business community. I mean, I was in Pakistan, and in Doha, we saw this as well, where the brands that are being, the new brands that are coming to market are actually tangibly, strategically eating away at the boycott brands. So there are things that we need to do and that we can do as business communities that really speaks to grabbing the opportunities that make it economically entrepreneurial, viable in both job creation as well as driving away the brands that are Zionists. And I think this is what Ambassador Rasool is speaking to. Just this level of strategic thinking, looking at what the challenges are and grabbing the opportunities in ways that really push us forward.
Thank you very much. Can we have a round of applause for our panel? Ladies and gentlemen, I want to leave you with something to think about. We talk about this ledger that we'd have of people who stood up. The protesters, the one who gave up their privilege, their jobs, who risked something to speak out. The people who filmed and photographed and documented all of this, even as it happened to them, even as they buried their dead. It is not hard to believe, even during the worst of things, that courage is the more potent contagion. Remember that. That they are more invested in solidarity than annihilation. That just as it has always been possible to look away, it is always possible to stop looking away. None of this evil was ever necessary. None of this evil was never ever necessary. Some carriages are gilded and others lacquered in blood, but the same engine pulls us all. We dismantle it now, build another thing entirely, or we hurtle towards the cliff, safe in the certainty that when the time comes, we learn to lay tracks on air. Shukran for your time and shukran for this opportunity. Barakallah feek.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Juanita, thank you for ending us on such a high. And that was such a brilliant conversation. My only regret is that it wasn't earlier in the evening, you know, so that more people could have been here to listen to all of that. It does remind me, as I was listening to that, of two things. I mean, no one you want to be friends with. The one is Adolf Hitler, and the other one is the Goebbels guy. He's a propaganda minister. But it was around the concept of a lie. Remember, Hitler wrote in Mein Kampf, if you didn't read it, don't worry, you're not in trouble. For those of us who had to endure, the concept of that big lie, that when somebody who is in authority says something outrageous, ordinary people think, well, they can't be that impudent to say something so outrageous, so it must be true. And this is the age and the era I think we're in. When we think about what's coming out from the White House, some of the themes that our panelists talked about, if you repeat a lie constantly, suddenly it becomes the truth. So we have to be vigilant. We have to guard against that. It's been an amazing night, and it's been my absolute pleasure to be with you. Thank you for having me. I'm going to leave the stage and say thank you so much, but I want to give it to Shaista Tokan to officially thank everyone who came and all the partners who made this beautiful night as beautiful as it was. I hope you enjoyed the food, and I hope to see you again next year. Thank you so very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I know you're tired, and thank you so much for those that have stayed behind. As a board member of the CBE, on behalf of the CBE, I'd like to thank you all for honoring our invitation. Thank you so much for just supporting the causes, listening to our awardees, and recognizing truth to power. I would like to thank a few very important people who have helped in creating this mammoth event, which was amazing. Please give a round of applause before I continue. So to our venue hire, Tasneem and Ibrahim Good, to INX Prime, our media partner, Farhad and Mohammed and his team, to Sammy and Shamala Naidu from Apple Print for the commemorative brochures, to our corporate sponsors, guys, without whom we have not done our best tonight. It's Amka, Darwoods, Broadway Suite, Sovereign, for believing always and supporting the CBE vision. For Shiran from Whispering Events for the venue and the setup. I'm sure you'll agree it was stunning. To all our awardees, to our brave journalists, to Ambassador Rasool, we salute you, we admire you, and we appreciate you. To our CBE board, as well as standing committee, Mr. Yusuf Musaji, without whom this event would have not been possible. To Shireen Ibrahim from Heels International for the goodie bags, for Laka Banara, Nabila Bahadur, Salam Kola, Irfan Mia, and all of you. Please, a final round of applause. Please drive safe. Take care.